Today on the Axe Files, we're here to check out a very popular author's first serial in Shonen Jump. Before Horikoshi would make it big with superheroes, he made an impact with a magical zoo, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Full name, Oumagadoki Dobutsuen, translated to Oumagadoki Zoo or just Crazy Zoo. Start date, July 26, 2010. End date, April 11th, 2011. Total chapters, 37 chapters plus one bonus chapter and one-shots combined into 5 volumes. To start things off, an artwork of Kohei Horikoshi of Smoker from One Piece was featured in volume 23 of One Piece's Usopp's Pirate Gallery in 2002, something Oda would bring up much later when My Hero Academia would eventually be serialized. I think it's cute that this is essentially Horikoshi's intro to the manga world. He would then professionally debut by publishing the one-shot Tenko in Akamaru Jump in 2007. Tenko is a really nice little one-shot about a boy with very similar powers to Shigaraki from My Hero, but walks a much brighter path, instead aiming to destroy all swords and weapons with his disintegration powers. It's also set in feudal Japan, so there's a lot of differences, and honestly it's a really strong first work. Next, in 2008, he would get another one-shot in Akamaru Jump, it being Boku no Hero, the pilot for My Hero Academia that I don't think is very strong, and he improved on the concept much later on. Next would be the pilot for another future series, Uchuu Shonen Bulge, published in Shonen Jump Next, also in 2008. I think here we see Horikoshi's art style really come into its own, with more stylized characters, expressions, and a greater sense of impact to the action scenes. Uchuu Shonen Bulge also demonstrates Horikoshi's aptitude to make a story set in a variety of settings: feudal Japan, modern day, and now space. Also in 2008 was Shinka Rhapsody. Although untranslated, it seems to have some similarities with My Hero, with how a percentage of the global population undergo an evolution similar to My Hero's quirks. Then, after working as an assistant under Yusuke Tanaka on Kagijin, he would publish the one-shot for Oumagadoki Zoo in Shonen Jump issue 2 of 2010, with the series beginning properly a few months later. Oumagadoki Zoo starts off by introducing our heroine Aoi Hana, a rather klutzy and aimless individual who decides to get a part-time job at a mysterious zoo hidden in the mountains due to her love of animals. There she meets the arrogant and enigmatic rabbit man Shina, the director of the zoo, who wants her to pretty much do everything from feeding to cleaning the animals, since he only likes to do fun things. Like our past Axe File with SWOT, having characters be this much of an asshole at the beginning can be a hard sell, but thankfully Hana gives a nice balance of sweetness, and Shina has a little bit of pizzazz that Kyo from SWOT lacked. Still, he is a bit of a drag though. He does have a cool design which helps, with Horikoshi being great at drawing rabbit characters for some reason. Hana then notices that she's in a bit of a shady situation and wants to bolt, but it's too late as the park closes at 4:44 PM, 4 being an unlucky or cursed number in Japan. This prompts all the animals to come out and then warp into monstrous humanoid versions of themselves. There's a lot of fun designs here, many of which evoke a lot of the weirder heroes and villains from My Hero Academia, some of which are designs Horikoshi would later reuse. The story at the beginning mostly consists of Hana getting to learn about the zoo's residents, their quirks, and highlighting that the zoo is really run down. It's kind of slice of lifey with minor battle elements, but they're more commonplace after the first volume when this orca character shows up. This sparks the aquarium arc where Igarashi the seal is kidnapped, so the zoo have to go to the aquarium to save him. Here we get some pretty standard shonen battles with various characters building up to the confrontation with the big bad, another human like Shina who's also being cursed. By the way, Shina is a human who chased a rabbit as a child and was cursed by a rabbit spirit. Similarly, the main villain of the aquarium arc was also cursed, but by a whale for shooting sea creatures. There's a sort of pattern here with animal abuse, with their curses only disappearing if they make amends by making the zoo or aquarium the most popular one in the world. The zoo must face down the aquarium director with the help of Orca, eventually taking them down. Here, Hana makes the comparison between Sheena and the director. Both of them are selfish, but at least Sheena does care about his compatriots, and the love he expresses is what will ultimately change Sheena back to human, so Hana says she will continue to help him. We then get some downtime as we move on to the next arc, where the zoo go to investigate a circus due to rumors of a talking bear. Here they encounter the sadistic and creepy clown ringleader, and a whole host of new animals are introduced to have fights with, just like in the previous arc. The ringleader turns out to be a red herring though, as the bear they wanted to befriend at the start of the arc is revealed to be a cursed human who is actually the one in charge, and he has a pretty raw design. Shigema, who is the bear, manages to capture Hana, and the lion character Shishido, who is one of the cooler characters. The end sees Sheena face off against Shigema, with Shigema positing that they're one and the same, both using animals to reclaim their bodies or to gain power, as it's revealed that Shigema can revert the transformations of the other animals to gain their power at the cost of their consciousness and the ability to be a hybrid. I think there's a lot of interesting ideas kind of being played around here with relationships, the give and take of people assigning different types of value to relationships and things like that. Shigema seeing it as a one-way street where he can choose to give and take as he pleases, viewing other animals and friends like resources. You could go even further and push these ideas to a higher level and pose it's a commentary on how people treat animals overall, as many do only see them as resources waiting to be used. Some animals are only valuable for their product, their meat, their wool, ivory, or their appearance where they're displayed in zoos. People often forget or simply don't acknowledge that animals like us are living, breathing creatures that feel, that can love, and ultimately have life. I think it's an important and interesting line of thought to pursue and to chew on, and it's unavoidable when making a story about animals, zoos, and their treatment. Overall, I don't think Oumagadoki Zoo goes that deep with these ideas, but Sheena focusing on just the fun part of all of this is kind of borderline ignorant of deeper issues, so it kind of muddles those themes anyway. But at the very least, him as well as Horikoshi seem to be against animal cruelty, which is nice. Sheena's backstory is also quite sweet, with him being changed into his form at a very young age, so he's then ostracized by humans, having to rely on animals for friendship. All the animals he befriended as a child are residents of his zoo, and in the end they give up their consciousness and lend their powers back to Sheena in a pretty emotional moment. With new power he beats the crap out of the bear, but all of the emotion is quickly undercut due to the animals reverting back to their hybrid forms anyway. The zoo and circus end up collaborating. There's some fairly basic message conveyed about people changing, with characters overcoming their fears or anxieties, as well as the zoo's inhabitants changing Sheena. It's okay if a bit heavy-handed, and leads to a nice final spread where Sheena thanks Hana, showing he's changed, if even a little bit. Oumagadoki Zoo did decent for itself. Not every series gets to be almost 40 chapters in the magazine. It helped that 2010 was a bit of a rough year for new releases in Jump, with Enigma being the best performing, I think, which really doesn't say much. Oumagadoki was simply serviceable for the time being, but as usual, manga need to leave the magazine for new series to begin. Oumagadoki's formulaic nature it was setting itself up with, coupled with the myriad of popular existing battle manga already in the magazine, likely led to it getting cut. Maybe if it leaned more into the zoo aspects, that would have given it some kind of unique feature, it would have stood out more and lasted a bit longer, but alas, that's not what happened. Ultimately, I think it getting axed makes sense. Horikoshi would improve with his next two manga, and it just lacked the impact of a big hit. Now let's check out what some people on the Discord had to say. Xenomat brings up how it's interesting to read a past author's works to see how far they've come. I definitely agree, it's neat seeing Horikoshi's evolution as an artist, and the designs he goes on to reuse in MHA seem to be very popular, with Matt commenting on them here. Mayu brought up a lot of them as well on the server, the most obvious being the orca design, which people really liked. Sheena is also critiqued here by Matt as not being a good protagonist whose quirks don't really add to or advance the story. They also bring up a Baggy Brilliant Park as a sort of a good example of how you could do a slice of life story in a setting like this, which is also what Cactus brought up too, also saying that the battles were pretty uninteresting, but they liked some of the character designs and art overall. I think people expected a lot more slice of life zoo stuff, but were disappointed when it shifted gears to be a simpler battle shonen style story. Viridian Night gave me an entire essay. Despite their high hopes as a fan of MHA, the manga didn't impress them, with them not liking how the cast treats Hana initially, which is more than understandable. They also found the general lack of direction and poor handling of its cast major detractors. Porsche pretty much says the same, finding its dialogue stilted and characters forgettable, although they liked the designs. The general consensus seems to be that Oumagadoki Zoo is pretty lackluster, and in hindsight I do feel like it's all a little thrown together haphazardly, although thankfully it had some strong design work which Horikoshi is known for and would only improve on in the future. After the end of Oumagadoki Zoo, Horikoshi would serialize Barrage or Sensei no Bulge in 2012 based on his prior one-shot. It had some changes like introducing elements from the Prince and the Pauper fairy tale, but it remained a science fiction story. It's also available officially on the Shonen Jump app and Viz website. It's a bit of an odd duck, but I might one day cover it on the X-Files as it only lasted 16 chapters. 2 years later, Horikoshi would then publish the currently running My Hero Academia, by far his most successful endeavor and one of the currently biggest manga in the world. What happens after all of this is a mystery, but undoubtedly Horikoshi eventually created a massive success for himself after a few of his manga got axed. And that was Oumagadoki Zoo, a decent first attempt by Horikoshi, which couldn't quite find its footing at the time. If you're new to the channel, this is a reminder to subscribe for more videos like this one, and to join the Discord where we do a read-through of an Axe manga once a month, which is how this video came to be. A link to the Discord will be in the description. I have a bunch of other X-Files videos as well as other Shonen Jump videos in general on my channel, so if you're interested, please go and check them out. If you really like what I make, consider subscribing to me on Patreon, where you can gain access to a few small benefits, including being thanked at the end of my videos like my current patrons now. Thank you to Kinocha, Cody, Kaizoku Gairu, and SoraQuill0. Thank you all for supporting me and the videos I make. As always, I hope you've enjoyed, remember to be kind, and take care.